race to replace ousted House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is underway. Republicans are hoping to vote on a successor by next Wednesday. In the meantime, though, the GOP says Democrats are to blame for the chaos in Congress.
There is an opportunity here for more bipartisanship, and I thought we would see bipartisanship last night, quite frankly, to avert this crisis. People like Josh Gottheimer, who are part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, should have joined us to prevent this from happening, knowing that it was the best interest of the institution and the American people for us to be governing right now.
Joining us now to respond to that comment and talk about this, New Jersey Congressman and the Democratic chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus, Josh Gottheimer. So, Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Your name was...
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Your name invoked by Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis yesterday, saying, look, she thought there'd be some bipartisanship here. What's your response?
Well, it's good to see Nicole. You know, she's a fellow member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, and I have a deep respect for all the members. Listen, this has been an emotional week for everybody on both sides, for the House of Representatives and especially for the Republican caucus. As you probably know, the selection of a speaker is with the majority party, so it's a decision in their family and always has been, right? You know, if I had my druthers, it would be Hakeem Jeffries would be the speaker and leader, and I hope they consider him, the Republicans, when they're in their family meetings these next days. But, you know, I'm from Jersey. I don't mess with other people's families. That's a decision that has to be made within their family. It's their pick. I don't even get a vote on that in terms of who they want to decide as their speaker. The second thing, we were deeply engaged in looking for a way forward together with Democrats and Republicans that would encourage more bipartisan governing. As Kevin McCarthy said the night after the vote, he said, I'm not going to sell my soul and to negotiating with Democrats. And that's totally his decision.
Okay.
You know, we tried to look for a way forward, but he wasn't interested. And, you know, it takes two to tango on these things. And as someone who's negotiated a lot of these agreements for our country, putting the country first, you got to have both sides at the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bipartisanship seems so far from reach right now. Can we talk about the Problem Solvers Caucus? It is made up of 28 Democrats, 28 Republicans. It's supposed to work together to break gridlocks in Congress.
Sure.
But is it true that the Republican members of the caucus are right now threatening to walk out because the Democrats voted against McCarthy?
I read some things about that, but I'll tell you this. I was on the phone with Republicans in the caucus all day yesterday, including last night, working on what are we going to do to make sure that in 40 days from now or 39 days from now, the government doesn't shut down again and hurt our veterans and our first responders, our seniors and our children, right? That's what we were very involved with this past weekend, working together to avert a shutdown, which we did. We worked together on the debt ceiling a couple months ago, and doing that in a bipartisan way. We were very involved. The Problem Solvers Caucus, the infrastructure package, which funds the Gateway Train Tunnel, veteran support, you know, lots of chips to build here instead of in China. So we work together all the time. Listen, we don't always find common ground, but we try and we sit at the table and work on it. And that's what we're all about.
So the Republicans are saying, hey, Democrats are to blame here for this big mess that we are in currently, right? And they're saying because Kevin McCarthy needed Democrats
and not the eight, and leaving, you know,
there's the eight. We'll talk about that in 1 second.
I mean,
but he's saying
they've got members of their own party, you know, who they're the ones who, unfortunately, listen, they have to really figure out how to deal with the extremists in their own conference. You know what I mean? That's who voted against their speaker. This, again, these decisions are made within the caucus. We Democrats, you know, like, selected Nancy Pelosi years ago. There were no Republicans voting for Nancy Pelosi. And you know, right now, Kevin McCarthy and his successor, they're picked in their conference among Republicans.
Yes. So something like Nicole Malliotakis yesterday was saying, hey, Kevin McCarthy reached out to the Democrats saying, I need your support to keep the government open. But then when he needed them to keep him as speaker, it didn't work both ways. What's your response to that?
No, so obviously, when it comes to policy matters, we work together all the time. And, you know, I worked with the speaker and many of his people to try to get a deal done, which, by the way, was very bumpy, if you remember, this past weekend until we got there, you know, a lot of back and forth. We wanted support for Ukraine to stand up to China and Russia and Iran. That was not included, right? There were things that we did not get. It was a negotiation. This, too, we attempted to see if there's something we could do working together. But, you know, you got to work together. What I want is more bipartisan governing, more policy things that, of course, are important to us, and make sure we get those things to the floor for a vote. And that's what we asked for, a chance to actually get more things, more bipartisan things for, and they decided they didn't want to talk to us about it. By the way, again, Kevin said, you know, he wasn't going to, he called it selling a soul. I didn't realize that's selling your soul, but to do bipartisan governing. But again, that's his choice, and I don't begrudge him that. That's his decision. But you have to. It takes two sides to do it. And listen, I'm very optimistic that the members of the Problem Solvers Caucus that I've been talking to, and we'll keep working together. We get back on the horse here, and we've got a shutdown potentially in 39 days. We've got work to do for the country.
But that's
put
just,
the country first. That's all I'm focused on here.
I think that's the bottom line right now. What the American people are worried about is that we are at a legislative standstill, right? No work is being done. And what are the chances that another vote might take 15 votes, like what happened to McCarthy? And what is your hope that it's going to be a lot quicker than that?
I hope it doesn't. But I hope it doesn't. But again, that's like we're not invited to those meetings where they make that decision. That's their caucus. It's their family decision. I'm not invited to that family dinner. So, I'll leave it to them to work that through. What I'm going to keep focusing on the stuff that we need to do now to get ready for making sure we get the government funded through 39 days from now, and also looking at ways we can change the rules of the House. I'm actually on calls about that. Last night, I was on calls about that. How do we change the rules of the House to stop empowering these extremists and encourage more bipartisan governing?
Congressman, we're out of time. You said that you were going to answer this question if the government shutdown was averted. It was averted, at least for now. Any interest in running for Senate for Menendez's seat? Or, I didn't ask you this last time, Governor?
Listen, again, I got 39 days. I'll answer that again.
Okay, I'll talk to you on day 40.
All right, start the clock again.
All right.
30,
Yeah, good
39 days.
I'll keep trying.
Good to see you, man. Thanks.
Good to see you.
Thanks.